Japan seems to be the hot new destination for all international travelers. I've been living in Japan for about 8 years now, but about 10 years ago, I was here as an international student. And while it was a grand old time, lots of travels, lots of adventures, there were also lots of mistakes. So we're going to dive into some tips, some tricks, some advice for you visiting Japan. So hopefully when you get here, you're ready to enjoy your adventure in Japan and don't have to worry about making tiny little mistakes while you're here. The first piece of advice is tried and tested, and you've probably heard it 1,000 times over, and you're going to hear it 1,000 more times. Learn Japanese. When I say learn Japanese, I'm not saying suddenly become a master of the language. Just learn a little bit of Japanese. You'll find a little bit of Japanese when you're in the country goes an extremely long way. I know it's a meme, but Japan actually is all about the respect. And if you spend some time learning the language, you'll find doors open in places you don't expect them to. There's a weird thing currently happening where Japan is kind of annoyed with the amount of tourists that are coming into the country. Learning Japanese is basically a cheat code to having a good time in the country. And you don't have to speak the language fluently in order to access this cheat code. Japanese is a pretty big language. There's a lot to learn, a lot of reading and writing structures, so it can be a little bit overwhelming when it gets to where do I start? What should I learn? What do I need for my trip to Japan? Not as much as you think. If you literally Google essential Japanese I need for traveling, you'll get about an A4 sheet of paper with all the essential words you need. It will be like, blank wa doko desu ka? Blank wa nan desu ka? Blank haitemasu ka? Like, it's very, very straightforward, but just knowing a few basic phrases just makes your entire trip so much easier. My gosh. Japan is currently experiencing let's say an influx of tourists. And that's perfectly grand. The local economy loves it. The right-wing politicians hate it, but that's kind of neither here nor there. Either way, we're experiencing an influx of tourism currently, but there are two distinct types of tourists. Tourist A is, I just kind of wanted to go to Japan and see what was up. Tourist B is, this is my lifelong dream and I really want to visit everywhere in Japan as much as I can. And what normally separates these two tourists are if they put in the effort to learn any Japanese before coming to the country or not. Or even if they're willing to try to speak the little Japanese they know while they're in the country. Japan's kind of famous for being a country that the English level isn't that high. And although I would love to say, no, don't listen to that, guys, it's all a rumor. It's not a rumor, it's actually true. The English level here isn't as high as it probably should be. And there's a plethora of reasons behind that we're not going to get into in this video. But the fact of the matter is, it's not that high. People speak to various levels, but the majority of people are kind of shy to use their English, especially when speaking to a native speaker. I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Learning Japanese is honestly a cheat. It is a cheat to having the best time in the country. When I was here as an international student, I spoke really bad Japanese when I was first here. My conversation skills weren't that good. My reading and writing was pretty dog shit. But I spent a long time really studying the language while I was here, traveling a bunch, meeting new people, and my first month in Japan compared to my last 3 months in Japan, night and day. Worried to get into places, scared about ordering things in menus, ordering the same things, things I could read off the menu. The last 3 to 4 months was all adventure. Meeting cool people, doing cool things, traveling to interesting places, because once you've broken just a little bit into that Japanese language, you feel like you can access way more of the country, way more of the culture, talk to way more people, because generally, you can. There's an old saying, the rules are meant to be broken. That saying does not apply in Japan. In Japan, there's a different saying. The rules are the rules. Japan has a lot of rules, some written and some unwritten. Thank gosh that in recent years, more of these unwritten rules are getting written down in English and placed in locations that people can see, so no one is mistaking these rules for suggestions, which is great, we love that. But these rules cannot be broken. To an international person traveling in Japan, some of these rules may appear to be really, really weird. Stupid even. But if you break the rules, how are you going to explain to yourself, to a person of authority, that you decided to break the rules because you thought they were stupid? It's not gonna go down too well, is it? So it just makes sense to have a smooth holiday, follow the weird rules no matter how weird you think they might be, and just exist peacefully while you're here living in Japan. When researching this video, two things came up pretty often. Eating while walking, or tabearuki, seems to be a big thing a lot of people bring up. It's always said that it's a big faux pas, you shouldn't be done in Japan, and blah 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 blah. But there are so many caveats to that rule. Yeah, sure, don't eat while you're walking, unless you're at a festival. Then it's perfectly okay. Don't eat while you're walking unless you're drinking something like a coffee, or you've got something from the vending machine, or it's a bottle of water or tea or something, then it's perfectly okay. You can't eat while you're walking unless you're in like a residential area where basically everyone is doing it anyway. Then it seems to be not looked twice at. There are so many caveats to that rule. I understand why it's been brought up so much, and while so many people don't really understand if they should follow the rule or can it be ignored in certain locations or situations, like it does get pretty peculiar. But in those situations, I always just say, just don't eat while walking. Because what you don't want is to be an international traveling Japan, living your best life, having a quick onigiri while walking down Ginza, and then for some random busybody to come up to you, telling you that you can't eat while walking and it's Japanese culture and blah, 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 blah. You don't want it. And to avoid that situation entirely, I would say just follow the weird rule, no matter how many caveats the rule has. While the strange eating while walking law is kind of up in the air, the smoking law is not. You can no longer smoke on the streets in Japan. This has been outlawed for a couple years now. There are now designated smoking zones that people can smoke in. They're normally outside of izakayas and bars and around station exits. This used to be a rule, but now it's most definitely a law, because there's also a fine of 5,000 Japanese yen for anyone caught smoking on the streets. So be careful, there are a lot of strange rules in Japan, but as long as you're on your best behavior, you'll be perfectly okay. If learning Japanese is a hack to having a good time, then this next piece of advice is essential to having a good time. You gotta wake up early. Waking up early isn't always the most obvious approach when one is traveling. You're on holiday, you want to be relaxing, sleeping a little bit late, enjoying the hotel breakfast, having a grand old time. I'm on your side. I love a lazy day in the holiday. You gotta take one day in the 2.5 weeks that you're in Japan for just to chill, do a little shopping, go with the flow. But depending on what city you're in, sometimes you're gonna have to get up at the crack of dawn. Let's look at Kyoto. Kyoto is currently packed with tourists. We're talking shoulder to shoulder at any shrine you visit. But you'll find, if you wake up and you're waiting outside the shrine when the shrine opens, there's gonna be no one there. You're gonna have the shrine basically all to yourself. The majority of people traveling in Kyoto, they're first-time Kyotoers. They don't know what it takes to visit Kyoto, because it takes an early start. Most of these shrines open from about 8 to 10 a.m. depending on the shrine, but they close really early. Unless there's some kind of special event, some kind of night ceremony, night show opening, a lot of these shrines have closed their gates by 4 p.m. And you'll find the biggest influx of internationals going to shrines come from about 11 to 12 to about closing. So if you're at the shrines before 11, you're gonna have the best opportunities, not only just for photos, but to really take your time and enjoy the location. But it's not only shrines in Kyoto you want to get up early for. Take Tokyo, for example. Some of the biggest shrines, some of the interesting locations, they're going to be really packed with tourists from about lunchtime onwards. You get there before lunchtime, it's basically empty. And how do I know this, you ask? Well, I've done this. I've created reels and videos and different types of content for the Tokyo government, or stores and locations and things linked with the Tokyo government. And when creating such content, you've got to get up, crack of dawn, get to the location just as it opens in order to make the content. If you're not there when it opens, you can't take the content. It's going to be filled with people and become a lot more difficult to film. And it's not just temples, shrines, and fun locations. Themed cafes also sell out pretty damn quickly. But if there's a cancellation and you're there waiting, you can normally sneak in. Waking up early also extremely overpowered when you're trying to get to some of those interesting themed cafes. The majority of these cafes, especially the Kirby Cafe, the Pokemon Cafe, they sell out extremely quickly. The reservations are gone normally about an hour after they're put online. So if you're in Japan, one of the things you wanted to do was check out one of the themed cafes, but sadly you couldn't get a reservation. Sometimes you could just go there early and wait. And if there is a cancellation and you're there waiting, you've got a table. Not only sniping the crowds and getting reservations, waking up early is pretty important just to complete all the things you want to do in Japan. You're going to find yourself with a massive list of places you want to visit, things you want to do, things you want to see, things you want to eat. You're going to find there are not enough hours in the day to do everything you want to do. You want to start bright and early, maybe hit up that cafe first, check out that first shrine, lunch at that themed cafe, check out that 3rd, 4th, 5th location before grabbing dinner in, I assume, whatever the current TikTok trending izakaya is, before heading back to your hotel for, a beautiful good night's sleep. Waking up early is a godly piece of advice. In Japan, cash is king. Yeah, not anymore, no. This is an old piece of advice that is no longer applicable to 2025 Japan. While cash does still have its place, it is no longer king, and Japan has joined us all in the 21st century. Cashless pay is finally here. Japan has its own bunch of weird cashless only transfer systems, IC cards, PayPay, ID. These are very much Japan only, so at a glance it does appear that Japan is still stuck in a cashless system for those visiting Japan, but that's not the case. Credit cards are majorly accepted everywhere: American Express, Visa, MasterCard. You can use these cards in most stores, to buy things online, to buy things in stores. Japan is no longer a cash-only society. Cashless payments are here. This is very much a new thing. I want to say within the last 5 or 6 years, there have been more stores and locations willing to accept cashless payments. My gosh, I'm so glad Japan has joined the rest of the world in cashless payments. Don't get me wrong, I love cash. I love using cash, but always having to carry cash around does get annoying. Being 300 yen short for something and the store going cash only, it is such a pain, honestly. Cash may no longer be king in Japan, but it does make sense to carry a little bit of money with you just in case you get into a situation where a store or a location just decides, hey, we can't accept your credit card, or our systems are down, or we're actually cash only. And this does happen. A lot of the major cities have moved to a more cash and cashless system, but if you're in the countryside, most stores there are still pretty much either Japanese internal payment systems or cash. And if you're an international coming here and you've got an international phone, you can't access those Japanese internal payment systems. So your only option is going to be cash. I would say if you're traveling around Japan, you should definitely bring some cash. About Gorman usually works out perfectly for about 2 weeks travel in Japan. There are certain locations that still haven't set themselves up to accept cashless only payments. Some of the old school ramen joints, some of the arcades, but also buses. Buses of course do take IC cards, but if you find yourself in a situation where you can't charge your IC card, the only way to charge it on the bus is with cash. That's if you're using like the physical IC card. I've been in a situation where I've been deep in the countryside, no cash on hand, and I've tapped my IC card and there's been not enough money on the card. And when the driver asked me, he's like, hey, do you have any cash? You can charge it right here. And I remember saying like, oh, I only have ID, the Japanese internal payment thingy. And we're about a 20-minute bus ride from the station, and the nearest convenience store is not close. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, cool, I'm gonna have to walk 45 minutes to the convenience store, take out some money so I can charge my IC card so I can ride this bus. Absolute insanity. Luckily in that situation, the driver was really cool. He let me just go to the station with him. And then I went to the station, charged my IC card, came back to the bus and paid my fare. Japan's a pretty high trust society. You can get away with doing stuff like that. But in that situation, it was very much thanks to lesson number 1, speak a little Japanese. It made it a lot easier to communicate my plight with the driver, and I think he was more sympathetic to my cause. You know, considering we could communicate in the same language, that really did help the conversation move forward. So yes, while Japan is no longer a cash-based society, carrying around a tiny little bit of cash on you is very helpful, but don't feel the need to carry your entire mortgage payment with you when you're traveling Japan. Those days are long behind us. Your credit card is perfectly okay. And if you do find yourself in need of cash while you're traveling, hit up 7-Eleven is probably the best place to take out money with an international credit or debit card. I think one of the biggest things always brought up in these types of videos is how annoying it is to carry around garbage, litter, trash when visiting Japan. And there's a bunch of different ways you can handle carrying around large quantities of trash when visiting the country. Some people have got into the habit of bringing around little plastic bags with them to put their trash in. Others have a designated trash pocket, be it in their trousers or in their bag or somewhere. And I think both of these solutions are pretty good. However, for those visiting Japan, you will be overjoyed to hear, gone are the days of carrying so much trash in your pockets. Japan is changing. Japan now has way more trash bins in the cities and on the station platforms. Gone are the days of carrying trash in your pockets around Japan while you are traveling. In certain cities, they've also got smart bins, but you'll notice that at every vending machine, there's also one of those pet bottle garbage machines to throw away your empty bottles of Pocari Sweat, water, and Boss coffee. While there are an increasing number of trash bins popping up around Japan, there's still not enough where you're not going to be walking around with trash in your pocket at one time or another, so be wary of that. you might want to keep a pocket completely empty just for the trash you're going to accumulate on your travels. People are going to hate me for saying this, but in my experience, Japanese people litter way more than international guests to the country. However, the narrative that's being pushed online, and the narrative that's been pushed online for a while now, is that internationals, both tourists and people living in the country, are the cause of trash-ridden locations in Japan. However, that's not the case. During the pandemic, when Japan was locked down, cities like Shibuya, Shinjuku, Ikebukuro, and other places in and outside Tokyo, places in Osaka as well, had massive mounds of trash there. Basically from the Japanese youth, salarymen, just partying up and existing in those locations. I'm not arguing over who makes more trash in Japan. I don't really care. But what I am saying is, be careful not to litter when you're in Japan. Like I was saying, the current narrative online is that,
oh my god, foreigners, they're making more trash than Japanese people.
And while that's not actually the case, you don't want to be caught throwing garbage on the ground. Someone films you doing it, and then they're going to use that as evidence to show that all foreigners do this. It's a tactic used by weird foreigner-hating right-wing people in Japan. It's a tactic that's going to keep being used as long as they have ammo to do it. For myself who's living in Japan, for other tourists who are going to come after you, try your best not to litter in Japan. Hold your garbage. If you drop something, pick it straight up again, you know? Doing that lessens the ammunition that could be used against internationals both living and visiting here, but also it just makes Japan a cleaner place for everyone to visit, and you know, that's good for everyone. Who doesn't like a nice clean Japan? If you find yourself in Japan and you don't have a portable garbage bin, stores like Daiso, Don Quixote, they do sell these weird like portable garbage bins you can bring with you, and they sort of attach to your backpacks, making it easier to carry your trash around Japan until you find a bin somewhere. Another interesting point I always see brought up in these videos is that one shouldn't tip when they're in Japan. That Japan doesn't have a tipping culture, and that when you're traveling and visiting Japan, you don't have to tip. Keep your money secure in your wallet outside of the bill you have to pay. That is true to a certain extent. Tipping culture isn't massive here. If you're in like a tourist area, if you're in a location where a lot of internationals go through it, you may find tip jars near the tills. Those haven't been put there for people living in the country. Those haven't been put there for domestic travelers. They're mostly there for international travelers who come through the area, because these stores know internationals like to tip. And if someone's gonna willfully give you free money, who are they not to take it? While I do agree that tipping culture isn't the norm here, there are certain locations that would be very happy if you did tip. It's not tipping in the way you expect. If you go to a bar in izakaya, a kind of open plan drinking location, you can do a de facto tip for the staff working there. This tip normally takes the form of a beverage. Be it alcoholic or otherwise, if you have a server and they're doing a bloody fantastic job serving your drinks all night, answering your questions, providing top-notch service, you can offer to buy them a beverage, and they'll probably happily take one. That is kind of how tipping is done in Japan. It's done more through the gifting of beverages, the gifting of snacks and such, offering to buy people things instead of just trading money. Now, how can tipping at an izakaya or a bar make your trip better in Japan? Well, that's easy. Let's pretend you're staying in Hotel X, and Hotel X happens to have a pretty interesting bar near to the hotel. And you've decided, you know what? I'm going to make this bar my final place of the night for every night that I'm traveling in Japan. A great idea. If your first night drinking there, you decided, you know what? I'm going to buy the staff a round of berries. It's on me. Thanks for being such cool staff members and helping me have a fantastic evening at the bar. The speed to which you will fly from normal international customer to local international customer is insane. The Jode privileges you get from being a regular at a bar, it's absolute insanity, dude. Not only do you have that sense of community and camaraderie when you enter the bar, but free beverages, free snacks, better tables. It opens a different world that you wouldn't experience if you just came to the bar, had a drink, and went home. Depending on the style of bar, you may even be invited to a second bar with the work staff, or they might give you their recommendations of other interesting places to eat, drink, and locations to hang out with in the area. So while tipping isn't a thing, buying a round of drinks for the bar staff or just a drink for the waiter that served you is an amazing way to become a regular customer while traveling in Japan. That is just a few tips and tricks that you can use while traveling in Japan to have a fantastic time while here. While you were traveling in Japan, did you use any of these tricks? And if you are traveling to Japan soon, which of these tricks did you find to be the most helpful? But guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.